oftentimes we're looking for big changes in our life and we just have to make these small, tiny little tweaks.
Right.
So I love that you learned that and experienced that with your profession.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, okay, hands down, it's just
Small.
one tiny little change at a time. Yeah. And I also love that you're just picking like one word or one trigger reminder, because I've been saying, and this is a practice I do at the beginning of the year, is pick a word for the year, and or sometimes it's a phrase or an affirmation. You touched on
that. What's yours? I have
well, so mine's it's a phrase that I picked actually from reading my scriptures, and I often do come to me that way, but it's faith, unshaken. So faith, and then I have in my mind faith, and then an arrow to unshaken equals power.
I love it.
And it came to me from reading a scripture, Jacob 4, I think it was 6 and 7. Anyway, where those words just popped out as I was reading them. And then it's been helpful already as I've hit situations and it's like, nope, faith unshaken gives me power. It gives me that access to the Lord's power. And so I'm just going to stand in my faith. And every year I've picked something different. Last year was actually success. And when I would hit a roadblock or hit something, I would just, nope, I will give into the success was just coming to my mind, success. And, whether it was with a child, a relationship, whatever, it was just, nope, you can have success in this. And so it would just give me what I needed to move forward. And I think that if we can pick a word or a phrase like that each year, it's just that one thing to work on, just that one.
We're so simple.
Yeah. I just need some anchor to keep me moving forward or keep me in whatever direction I need.
Otherwise we get lost in the weeds.
Yes, we do. And I think if we can be intentional, the more intentional we can be about selecting that, I think prayerfully, like I said, I read my scriptures as I'm trying to figure that out. It becomes more personal and more relevant for what we specifically need in that year.
So mine last year was royalty. So I wanted to teach myself. I mean, I'm like, we are all daughters of a Heavenly Father who loves us.
Yes. Amen.
And we need to treat ourselves that way.
Absolutely.
We need to give ourselves love and grace and okay to make mistakes, okay to try new things, okay to love others, treat others like daughters of Heavenly Father, like they are. So everybody was royalty.
Yes.
So, which was great. We can all be royal. It's not like we're putting anybody down. It wasn't the purpose.
Right.
We're all there.
See, we are so in sync because you don't even know that the pretty sister, kind of the symbolic, I want to say crowning thing, but it's a crown.
Yes.
Like that is the image that goes with pretty sisters. And so when we've, inducted people and done the pledge ceremony that we do, we put crowns on our heads because it's that imagery, that just the reminder that we are all royal daughters of God, and just recognizing our heritage of who we are. And that crown symbol is the reminder of that.
So when I explain your podcast to other people, I said #beautiful daughters.
Yes. I love
that. That's for you.
Yes.
It's the same thing too.
Yes. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So,
however you want to word it,
hands up, hips up, hands down, whatever you want.
Yes. It's just connecting to that inner divinity of who you are and remembering that and finding ways to remember that to bring out that greatness.
So my word this year, and I just put it on I wrote it on my mirror this morning, is win. And so
all we're going to do is win.
And you're not always going to win. In fact, I played pickleball on Monday and I kept score of everybody's score. And I was the bottom for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. But my work is going really well.
Yes. So you're winning somewhere in life.
I'm winning somewhere, but it was okay. I was like, okay, I need to give this more attention.
Yeah. Well, even I think our losses can be our wins. I always tell my kids, we're failing forward, guys. Just fail forward. I want them, and sometimes at dinner conversations, I'll say, what are your fails for the day? I want to see them failing because that means they're trying. And we're never going to be good at anything, when we start. I've said this about this podcast. I haven't been good at it at the start, but I'm learning as I go, whether it's lighting or sound or just getting more comfortable doing it. Right. It's just a process. And okay. I hesitated for years on starting until I finally was like, no, I'm just going to start imperfectly.
I have loved every one of them. And I can tell the beginning to the end. but they're still great.
Oh, thank you.
I can see the process and they're all great.
It's just it's a process of evolving and developing. And I'll say this to anyone listening, start whatever it is you're thinking about, because you aren't going to be perfect at it at the beginning, and you're not designed to be that way, because we have to learn step by step, precept upon precept. You weren't, a champion water skier the first time you started. You probably had a knack for it, and a love for it, and a passion there, things that kind of fuel that fire, but you had to learn the techniques, and you had to be coached, and you had to perfect your art.
And terrifying. I mean, it's scary. We're all uncomfortable in doing things. And you just had a quote. So I was looking up, and I ordered this sign for you on Amazon. It didn't come in time.
Oh, you're so sweet.
It's Nelson Mandela's. It says, "I never lose. I either win or I learn."
Oh, I love that.
That is us.
That is perfect.
So yeah. So constantly learning. And so I got to tell you, my first time going to nationals, I wanted to just throw up. Because I'd never been there before.
Oh, I can imagine.
112 degrees. And all the prep, and then there's girls that are mean, and you're like, to be intimidating, or they had to get in their mind, they didn't want to talk. And I'm a talker. I'm like,
you want to chat, and
so it's interesting trying to like navigate everybody.
She's like, wait, these are my competitors. Yes. These are my best friends.
And I'm like, but really, we're competing against ourselves.
Yes.
But yet, really, I want to beat those that are ahead of me, or go before me, because I should.
Yeah.
Because I'm ranked higher. But my ranking was at a lake that was slow, an easier lake than the one I was skiing on for nationals. So I didn't do what I thought my potential was, but that's okay. I'll regroup. And then I went back home, and I'm like, no, I don't even miss that pass. What happened? I just didn't peak at nationals.
Right.
I thought I should have been. And that was frustrating, but that's okay. I learned. It was my first time. So this year going forward and I looked at all the people, and you can see which tournaments they've done. I didn't do half as many tournaments, not even half.
You're just jumping into this late, really, for your sport.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to at least give myself more opportunities.
Yes.
So that's kind of my goal this year, is just give myself. And then if you sign up for more tournaments, inevitably it's going to make me practice more.
Yes.
And more intentional.
Yes.
So sometimes you just go out and you're like, I'm just having fun and chatting, and I'll just throw on a jacket and I'll go. And I'm like, well, that was a waste of time.
Sure.
Because I didn't.
Because if you're going to do it, you want to give it your best.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that.
So that was one thing, my friend Chelsea Mills said, make sure you do the same routine. And that's really easily said, hard to do. Because we all do that. We just like, I'll throw on the jacket, I'm going to go play. You'll do that with pickleball. I'll just throw the racket in, we don't warm up, and we don't, do the things the drills that are boring, that make us better.
Well, and I think oftentimes it's human nature to laugh something off and say, oh, I'm not trying. Because if you say that, you're kind of almost putting out there, yes, like, don't expect much. And there's a time and a place for that, I guess, especially if you're injured or whatnot. But yeah, why not seize opportunities and give it your best?
Right. Make yourself notes. I mean, I loved the stickers, the one-word phrases, of course, them sport. And so, yeah, give yourself all the opportunities you need to do better.
Right. And apologize less and show up more.
Yeah.
Okay. I asked about your kind of 3 takeaways from the fire. What would you say are some of the, like, a few or the top 3 lessons that have come from this water skiing journey you've been on and being a pro?
I would say, it's interesting watching some of the women not really help you, because it's already a hard sport. And I have a friend that will text me. She's in Arizona, and we were at the same level, and she's just taken off because she skis. She's not married. She doesn't have children. She doesn't have grandkids. It's a different situation. So, and she's just really taken off. And she skis all the time. She's Arizona. Yeah. And I ski in the cold, even in the summer. So I'm tough.
She's amazing. You are tough. Cold. That's so tough.
It's so cold. And so I have to, but I'm trying to give myself opportunities to go there, but to go, to warmer places, to make it, because I can fly.
Yeah. But you're also a busy working woman.
Yes.
Which we've never said. You have a career.
Yeah, I have a career.
So you've mothered these children. You have this thriving career and a professional athlete. It's amazing.
5 new agents. So I'm training 5 new, and I was exhausted last night. I'm like, why am I so tired? I'm like, oh yeah.
I'm
I
busy.
have 5 people asking me lots of questions and I love it. But yeah, okay, takeaways from water skiing is, okay, there was a story that Steve Young, I just listened to him and it was so interesting. So he was saying his teammates would go, did he throw up yet? And they go, okay, good. Because he would throw up before every game.
Out of nerves.
Wow. And they knew they were going to win if he threw up.
Interesting.
And so those nerves, we know those are good. If we can take care of it and know what works for us.
Yes.
So my husband, right.
So what did he do? Did he say what he did to combat the nerves? Because if
he just threw up and then he knew he was good.
And then he
knew it was going to go well. It was his routine. And I'm like, that sounds horrible.
Yes. There's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. So for my husband, I was as nervous for him at nationals because he's not going to be happy if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. He was ranked 27th. So and it's really interesting. You'll go do these tournaments. You're like, okay, my BMI is way better than hers. How is she so good? Like,
wow, these little tiny degrees.
Yes. I mean, of course,
make a difference.
Size each other up, and you're like, wow, you know what I mean. And the cool thing with water skiing, you do have aged, So right now I'm the oldest in the younger group, so I'm kind of giving myself some grace.
Sure.
Of course, the younger they just improve so much year over year.
Yes.
Like, wow, I'm not that improving, but I'm really close to going into the 55 group, which will put me the youngest, which is kind of a goal setting this year because I'm like, okay, I've got a couple more years at this, and I would love to be.
That's so interesting because
10 years is what they give them.
So it's 10-year,
which as boys,
brackets.
Really, my 18-year-old, it throws. So I think my 18-year-old was competing with my 25-year-old son. They were in the same group. Which is not fair.
Yes,
but
and how high do these age brackets go?
That's what's so great about water skiing. They have 80-year-olds. Wow. Yeah, 90. I've had 90.
Wow.
Yes. And they're amazing. My 65.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
That is inspiring.
67-year-old friend, I think she's 66. I snow ski and water ski. She goes to Worlds. She's way better than me. And I said, oh, I'm going to outlive you. That's the only way I'm going to beat her. Because at this point, she's so
we possibly may, with the way all of the different discoveries of how we can live longer, younger longer,
because 50
in your favor.
50 was old back when we
it was old. It was the Golden Girls on TV. I mean, how old were they? They seemed so old because the hair coloring wasn't a thing back then. So they had the silver and white hair. I have a friend who was a college roommate, and she, retired recently. And she was saying, we got together in California to throw a retirement party. And she's like, I just imagined us living as the Golden Girls as when we were older. She's like, I'm not sure what we were going to do with our husbands in that imagination. And we certainly don't look like them. Yeah. But that's, what would be fun to just be all hanging out like that. Roommates, like later in life. So we're just saying it's so different than what you thought now that we are at these older ages of empty nesting and some retiring, and we're redefining it.
Exactly. Which is really fun.
New. Yeah.
Really fun to see everybody doing new things and trying new things.
Yeah.
So okay. I mean, this is one thing about water skiing I think that is intimidating. People don't realize if you just showed up on the dock with your ski, nobody's going to share their ski. So just so you know, like people are like, oh, I'll just borrow your ski. And I'm like, no, this is form fitted to my foot.
Yes, and that's very specific.
Thousands of dollars. So everyone thinks they can just borrow my ski. I usually have extras. So I'm like, I'm happy to share some of my extras, but bring your ski.
Yes.
And bring your handle. Can you believe it? Everyone's like, oh, just throw me
your own handle.
So my handle is over $100 formed to my hand, and it's, anyway,
it's your handle. It's the handle you use. It's not like your family's all using the same handle. You each have your own handle.
And it has the spring that I like. Like the technicality of water skiing is so bigger than you. So like I go and drive my husband. So right after nationals, he did one of the best passes he's ever done. Bumped him up to 9th and I think maybe 12th. I think he was 12th in the nation.
Wow.
So 27th, he goes in and he's like ranked 12th. Which was amazing. And so we came back to Utah and do our first pass on our private lake, and I'm driving, And he's like, well, I make this all the time. And he breaks his ankle in 3 minutes. So that happened. So you go from hero to zero in like seconds. And so, so he's been nursing. He just got back to walking like a few months ago, and he was just in West Palm.
So was that at least where he could heal over the winter season?
Yeah. So
timing wise.
So, I mean, to get us back to nationals, so he got a new boot that will release better. And every water skier is like, oh yeah, I had that injury. So,
oh gosh.
So
just something you have to pass through.
I guess,
one of those things you don't want to have to.
I'm not that crazy. I don't think I'll ever go. I mean, he's going 34 miles an hour. My top speed is 32, which still is flying.
Yeah.
It is
well,
so
and
fast.
nowadays, because surfing has become more more popular. I was going to ask you if you like to do that, but you do that at like 11 to 13 miles an hour. And so it's so much slower.
Yeah.
So those of you who haven't water skied before at 32 miles an hour, that feels way different. That's some serious adrenaline.
I sometimes will.
And the falls are a lot more painful because you're going at such a faster speed.
I mean, if you're like a helicopter, that's what my husband, that's how he broke his ankle.
Just like flipping around.
Because it was so fast. And so, so it's.
And when you're going around those buoys, are you just kind of laying out like you're just to catch?
So my husband's legs, you can't even reach it with 2 arms. It's not even long enough of a rope to do it without extension.
Wow.
So you look at those and they make it look
this would be so fun to come watch you.
It is. And
so fun.
You're not gonna watch. You're gonna play.
Well, I don't know. I like when I say I water skied, I mean that was so long ago relative now to just evolving with, now the surfing. And
that's what's so cool about water skiing. When you're in the water, it's your time. It's your sport. It's it's about you. So everybody gets a chance. And that's what's so great about it.
Yeah.
I love to have everybody try. And it's invigorating for us to see do something new for you. So every water skier, I don't know very many that wouldn't take a new skier because they love to share the passion.
Yes.
So don't feel, I mean, it's intimidating, but don't think you can't show up and just say, and definitely bring some gas money.
Yes.
You don't realize how expensive, because when you get people and they're like, we just take them, and I'm like, okay, just for 6 passes is over $60 just in gas. And
wow.
Just it's very expensive.
Yeah, that's amazing. And those are some things you don't quite think about.
Yeah.
Until you're the person
paying for it.
Which,
to a point, we'll do it for you. But
yes. Well, it's kind of like what goes on with our children, right? When they don't quite know what things cost until they get older and start having to do it on their own. And it's like, oh, now I'm grateful, Mom, for all those things.
We have a saying where you're like, boating will make you a millionaire if you're a billionaire. It's expensive, but it's to me, every sport is expensive.
Yes.
I mean, you get in it. I'm like, they made soccer expensive. How did they make pickleball expensive?
Right.
They'll find ways.
Well, it seems like they've realized pickleball has become so popular, and people would spend so much on the tennis rackets. Relative to the pickleball. So I don't know if you've noticed, now they're making the pickleball rackets a lot more fancy and expensive, because I think they realized, we can. People were paying for the tennis ones. We can just make these fancier and jack up the prices for the pickleball ones.
But it makes a difference. I didn't realize equipment is huge.
Yeah.
And so with water skiing, definitely you can buy your game. You definitely pay. And then there gets to be a point I'm like, I really didn't need a new ski. I just needed a new technique.
Yes.
I needed to put in the work.
We want to think, if I can just get that new ski, it's going to make me better. And shortcut to the.
It's a shortcut. I'll just throw another couple thousand. Yeah.
When it's like, no, I need some more practice.
Yeah. So it's a fine balance and definitely fun to learn.
Yes.
So fun to figure it out, because every sport's the same that way on the equipment, trying to figure out your mental toughness. But one thing the pro Chelsea Mills said is go with what you got. Like, what you're good at, think about what you're good at. So that's her cues too, and go with confidence with what you've got. And I'm like, oh yeah. Cause you go in and you're like, this isn't going to end well. That's not going to go well for you. But you're like, I know this past,
Yes.
give yourself those chances to do well. Tell yourself win or whatever your word is.
Right.
You can do this.
Well, at the top of the year, we did an exercise in the podcast, which you've heard, where we said, go back in your past 10 years and look at what you've accomplished to prime you for thinking about what you want to accomplish, to remember, like, I actually can do things. And I that's what I thought of when you said to go with what you've got. Like, you've got to remember you're coming to the table with something. You know how to have success. You've done this before. And I think sometimes we forget to give ourselves credit for the lessons that we have learned, the things that we can do. But when we take the time to remember that, to focus in on that, to bring that to the forefront of our mind, then it does give us that courage and confidence to move forward and try new things. And, one of the goals and aims for Pretty Sisters and for the podcast and the book that I wrote is to increase people's confidence, women and girls, to remember who they are and to have the confidence to live their beautiful life and to try new things, which I think is so cool that you've done this. So what would you say to somebody else? What do you say to your own kids, to yourself, to build that confidence to, it's hard to compete. I mean, it's hard to be a pro.
It is.
And you've touched on that a little bit, but if you were to, like, what is it that you're doing that you could share with us to bring that type of confidence to try, to show up, to get back up when you fall? And there's a lot of elements to it. Have you ever thought about what it is that's helping you be a champion?
I think you just said, I think one thing is just to sign up for the tournaments.
Show up.
Say, okay, I'm going to do this one, which is, and even sometimes it just makes you scared. You're like, oh, I hope I'm ready by March. Mm-hmm. So my friend is like, come down, we start our tournaments earlier, which makes you better longer. So you want to peak at nationals. You don't want to be worn out, but I want to give myself chances. So she starts and our first tournaments here in Utah is June.
Okay.
So that's kind of a goal. She's saying, come down and start earlier. So you're already
get yourself practiced.
Yes, get going. So it's giving yourself an earlier start this year. So that would, and I ended so well, and we just got cold, and I'm like, oh, that's, it's so sad to see it go.
Yes.
But I feel like I can give myself an early start this year. So that is kind of one of my goals. And I've got friends, there's not many women in it. And so my husband was going to go, and it was going to take all Saturday. You have those golfer husbands.
Yeah.
So if you can't beat them, join them is kind of philosophy. So that is kind of, I'm like, oh, I get how this is going.
Yeah.
And as a result, I've loved it. And I've been able to be around some really fun people, really funny people. They're hilarious out there on the lake and just having a good time. So
fun.
Yeah. And anytime, really, anybody will take you. Honestly, we're happy. It's called Pat's the Handle. Everybody's happy to help bring you along, because we realize we've all been there. It's scary.
Yeah.
And so
don't
be afraid of it.
I love, so one of the things I've often said is you just gotta, when you do try something, you just gotta go all in. You gotta jump in the deep end of the water. That's the commonly used as a metaphor for going all in. It's just to jump in. And here you are, literally, you just have to jump in the water, right? I mean, whether it's cold, whether you've got to travel to these places, windy. You're going all in. You're jumping in. You're like, I'm in the water. I'm doing this.